There's one with Finance Authority.
Oh, yeah, let's do that.
Okay, certainly.
Move to adjourn for the Finance
Authority.
We are adjourned.
Thank you.
Do you have out the other one?
No. Really simple.
Okay.
This one here.
Mr. Redevelopment Chair and Mayor, are you ready?
One more meeting.
Find it.
Council and Redevelopment.
That's right.
You passed it.
Okay. Scott?
Yeah.
It's at the yellow.
All right, we'll call roll call for the joint meeting of the Glendale City Council and the Glendale Redevelopment Agency. May we have a roll call for the City Council, please?
Council members Draymond?
Here.
Friedman?
Here.
Najarian? Here. Weaver?
Here.
Mayor Quintero?
Here.
And can we have a roll call for the redevelopment agency?
Certainly.
please?
Agency members Friedman?
Here.
Najarian?
Here.
Quintero?
Here.
Weaver?
Here.
Chairman Draymond?
Here.
The agenda for the January 5th, 2010 joint public meeting of the Glendale City Council and the Glendale Redevelopment Agency was posted on Thursday, December 31st, 2009 on the bulletin board outside City Hall. Item 1, or the item on the agenda before you, is the public hearing Director of Development Services regarding Health and Safety Code Section 33445 and 33445.1 findings and determination for the Columbus Soccer Field, Central Library renovation, Town Center ARC East Brand Connection, and Central Avenue Improvements Project. A is a council resolution making the necessary findings and determination in accordance with Health and Safety Code sections listed in the agenda item. At B is the agency resolution making necessary findings and determinations in accordance with the same Health and Safety Code sections. And that is all.
Okay, Mr. Starbird.
That's again to Mr. Lansing. Bill?
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, Mr. Chairman, members of the Redevelopment Agency. This is a bit of a companion piece to the bond issue. Section 33445 allows the Redevelopment Agency to pay for public improvements that are within the redevelopment project area or just adjacent if you make three findings: that it benefits the project area, that it assists in the elimination of blight, and that there is no other feasible or reasonable way to pay for the improvements. Section 33445.1 is a similar piece of legislation that allows agencies to pay for projects that are outside or not contiguous to the redevelopment project areas, assuming the same findings, but they must be of primary benefit. As we noted before, in the CIP budget that you approved last year, there were the four projects that were listed in the title of this: the Central Library, the pass-through, the Columbus Soccer Field, and the ARC. The hearing for the item for today is for you to make those findings on these projects. We have also included, as I said, the Central Avenue improvements so that either they could be funded with additional bond proceeds if there are any left, or you would still need to do this if you were paying for it with tax increment. Finally, there are the findings and the reasons of the benefit in your report for each of those projects. With the current state of the general fund budget and the CIP budget, with cuts to the other departments, we believe that this is the way to fund these projects, these four projects that were included in the CIP.
Mr. Starbird.
Yes, and again, consistent with our discussion on the earlier item, if by chance one of these projects didn't go forward or we had more savings than we anticipated, we'd identify a new or different project and have to make these same kinds of findings at that time. But this doesn't limit you from doing that. It just qualifies existing projects we have identified.
Mr. Mayor, one last thing, if you'd make a question. The ARC is not on here because we made those findings last September when the project started. You've already made those findings on that project. That concludes our report.
Any questions? Mr. Najarian.
Let me yield to the city attorney.
Thank you. I recommend, if you haven't done so already, to go ahead and open the public.
Okay, I'll open the public hearing. Don't have any...
A couple questions. First off, refresh my memory as to what the Columbus Soccer Field financing was in jeopardy several months ago. Was that through the state action of taking our grabbing our redevelopment?
That was the holdup of the bonds.
It was both. With the state taking our money, we had to put aside a certain amount. Because the bond market wasn't ripe, let's say, we were going to use tax increment to fund these projects. We needed to hold a certain amount of that in reserve. So we didn't have enough to do both the soccer field and make our payment to the state, or at least hold it in reserve. So that was a project that was in jeopardy.
But the Columbus Field has, from its inception, anticipated being funded from the Redevelopment Agency. So both the state potential take of the $11 million, which we've yet to write the check, it's being litigated, but we've had to essentially earmark those funds and hold them in reserve, or this was to be the source of funding for that project.
My next question is with regard to the criterion of eliminating blight, as well as having no other reasonable means of financing the improvements. Are we on firm ground? I mean, building a soccer field on a school campus doesn't strike me as being eliminating blight. But are we okay? I mean, is there plenty of precedent in terms of doing that?
Mr. Mayor, Mr. Chair, members of the agency and the City Council, we're looking for primary benefit to the project area. And so one of the factors, the substantial evidence that we want to look at, is that there are no active recreation fields, soccer fields being very popular in the city of Glendale to serve the project area housing. And we have recently amended our zoning code for purposes of having a downtown specific plan to allow housing. And so this availability of this soccer field, this active recreation area, will be of primary benefit to the housing that has been built and will continue to be built in the project area. So we feel that we are on very solid ground with respect to elimination of blighting influences, in that we want to attract and retain housing in the downtown project area through the downtown specific plan.
So that's sort of like eliminating prospective blight, because the housing hasn't yet
Exactly
come
right.
in.
It's the elimination of blight and the prevention of the return of blight. So it is actually both. You've made an important point, because that is both.
As long as you tell us, we're good with
And
it.
then Ms.
I would just add that the definition of blight goes beyond what we think a dilapidated building. Lack of public infrastructure is a blighting influence. By providing this public infrastructure, you eliminate that blighting factor.
And the reason I sort of raise this on a tangential issue is that we have discussed creating additional redevelopment areas in the city, and one of the stumbling blocks is the elimination of blight or the existence of blight. So I hope this loose definition of blight continues, and we can discuss that at some
time, but
future point.
But it is, I think I understand your reference to loose, but it is a specific definition of blight. It's lack of public infrastructure when we adopted our project area in 1972. And this certainly would be, as Ms. Van Meiden noted, there is a lack of this public infrastructure.
and it really applies to any public improvements that might be outside the project area, of which the ARC is one, although it's contiguous, but it would apply to any of the public improvements outside the project area. You still have to make any of these findings.
And maybe for another time on another agenda, if that's a definition, then I think, and we've heard this from speakers for years, perhaps a large portion of South Glendale could be a potential project area.
Yes, the rules have changed a bit since 1972 when we adopted this project area, but we can come back and elaborate.
It is
on that.
still much harder to form a new project area than this kind of definition. Much, much harder.
We might also add that these projects have been identified both in the implementation plan and in the project area plan in terms of category or type of project. So that's another portion of the finding that's required to be made, and we can make that finding.
Ms. Friedman?
Yes, I just wanted to take the opportunity to respond a little bit to Mr. Mohill's comment with regard to this item. I appreciate him coming forward and taking an interest in the city and coming to address us, but I think that this particular item shows the benefits of having a redevelopment area, of having tax increment finance bonds, Because if it wasn't for that, we wouldn't be able to be building a new soccer field and doing improvements to a park and all of the other benefits that harnessing redevelopment brings. And I also wanted to point out that this, along with many of the projects that we've been discussing since I've been on this council, are south of the 134 highway. So I don't think it's at all the case that we've been ignoring any part of the city. In fact, since I've been here, we focused almost exclusively on South Glendale in terms of these improvements. And I think that that's very encouraging. And I understand that with this motion that we're looking at is just to make the findings. But I will also take this opportunity to just express my small concern with the use of artificial turf for the soccer field, but that's certainly not an issue that we're going to be discussing today, but I did just want to throw that out there.
Okay, any other comments? All right, I have one speaker card, Mike Mohill.
Mike Mohill, Glendale resident. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think I was a little bit winded in my last presentation. I apologize. I should have got right to the point. Okay, so we're at $30 million, and we're going to pray that the economy is going to stay good. I figure it's not. We're going to have 5 years of hell here. All the indicators show it, unfortunately. Glendale is no different than any place else, especially in Southern California. Now, having said that, why couldn't we have the Pacific Pool included in this redevelopment bond deal? We're talking about $6.5 million. Why can't we throw it in so that South Glendale, for the summer, these people can have some place to go? They're low income. They don't have much going for them, unfortunately. Unfortunately, they need a swimming pool, a wading pool. Actually, they need 10 lanes, Mr. Najarian. But I am in favor of these people, I don't mean it that way. The residents of South Glendale need a swimming pool. Why not? They used to have one there, and council and other people decided we're going to get rid of it. And it's been many years. I remember Margaret Hammond saying many times, Margaret, she says, Mike, there was a swimming pool there. And they changed things, and they've been promising us a swimming pool for many, many years. Well, you know what? Isn't it time? We find money for Rock Haven, $8.5 million, and still climbing in the cost. And no one's using Rock Haven at all. It sits idle. If we put $6.5 million in South Glendale, trust me, by this time next year, there'll be thousands of kids in that swimming pool. And they'll improve their quality of life. Like Mr. Milano would say, let's improve the quality of life for the people who live south of the 134 freeway. And a swimming pool, and a soccer field, and parks. This is what we need. And Mrs. Friedman, thank you for acknowledging me, my hope for South Glendale. And why can't we tack on $6.5 million and call it the R.J. Najarian swimming hole? Because he was pushing behind it last year, and I was against it because of the water situation. But I have 38 more seconds, and I'm saying let's put in a swimming pool this year. Please. $6.5 million is not a lot of money when we're spending $30 million. Bye. Thank you again.
Okay. Any other comments or questions, Mr. Draymond?
Yes, could the staff tell me, please, what is the funding source for the Najarian swimming hole?
I think
You guys are going to kill the project now, please. I'll settle for a urinal, okay? A urinal after
I think
me.
our hands went up at about the same time. Mr. Moho makes it sound like it's an either-or situation. If we do
Exactly.
these, we won't be doing the pool. You might recall, just before the holidays, you had another meeting to review design of the pool. Funds for the pool are in the budget, a combination of both grant as well as general construction, general fund, capital improvement funding. So it's not either-or.
Well, it's not either or, but you have to understand, Mr. City Manager, when you're there to try to bend in some feeble way political opinion.
Just assuming you missed the meetings.
Exactly. You have to draw, straw men in order to do it.
Okay, any other comments? Do I have a motion?
You want to close the public
I'll
hearing?
close the public hearing.
Mayor, I move 1A for the council.
Second.
Roll call.
Council members Draymond,
Yes.
Friedman,
Yes.
Najarian,
Yes.
Weaver,
Aye.
Mayor Quintero.
Next.
And,
Next, please.
Move 1B for the agency.
all right, do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. Kasakian. could you-
Agency members Friedman,
Yes.
Najarian,
Yes.
Quintero,
Yes.
Weaver,
Aye.
Chairman Draymond.
Yes.
Will we adjourn for the council?
Second.
We are adjourned.
Will we adjourn?
For
Do we have
recess.
to go back?
No, this is a special
Oh.
meeting.
Okay. Will we adjourn for the agency?
Thank you.
Second.
The special meeting of the agency is adjourned.